You're listening to the Tom Kelly Show, the home of personal growth and fun. We do podcasts here on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube 3 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday mornings, plus lots of surprises across the board on Tom Kelly Show on social media. My stand-up comedy schedule is at TomKellyShow.com. But right now, friends, neighbors, let's start the darn show.
The Tom Kelly Show. Everybody, I want you to go to the Tom Kelly Show. I want you all to know about the Tom Kelly Show. Thank you. Keep that money coming.
Trigger warning, spoiler alert, break out the hedge clippers. You're listening to the Tom Kelly Show. I did a false start. I just did a podcast that I hit the wrong. Actually, I intentionally deleted. F it, people. I don't know. The hard part with doing the show alone is you have to make decisions alone. And I want to, so there's your personal growth moment, people, is you have to commit. If you don't have a vision, if you don't say what you want the show to be, you can't plan it out. Now, there's a lot of guys who just say, I just turn on the mic and I talk, and there's room for that. There's room for that. But as this podcasting market gets more fragmented, I have to tell you what I'm giving you. And ladies and gentlemen, I am giving you death, depression, but I'm going to start with a few funny topics, okay? Is that a deal? Is that a deal? And I'm not even going to be talking about death. I have 2 work acquaintances who have passed away. One was a friend, a work friend, but then, you get that whole thing of what makes a friend a friend. How often do you call in? How often do you check in? But 2 people who are good to me in my life have died, and I'm not grieving. That's something I've learned from my pop is if you can't be someone's friend while they're alive, do not grieve when they are dead. But I do have 2 good stories to tell that I will tell as the podcast progresses. Special shout out, ladies and gentlemen, to River Birch Nursery Landscaping. How the hell did they find me on Instagram? Why don't we try? This is crazy. This is kind of crazy, but let's just see. You ever just wonder why is a landscaping company in Virginia following me? Let's just give them a quick follow. 1-804-758-3522. Maybe I am just talking and going with it. Hang on. Do you ever just wonder why the hell would a landscaping company from Virginia call and follow Tom Kelly? Now, apparently they don't answer their phones. That's strike 1. They have 53 followers, but they're following 271 people. I'm sure this is going to turn out to be a friend of mine or something. And again, River Birch Nursery Landscaping. And apparently they're doing so well, they don't have a working voicemail account. One last ring. I've never, I don't think. Hang on for a second. As I turn this down for a second, folks, go into your memories for a second. When was the last time you called someplace and there was no answer? Like no voicemail and no answer. And that's the kind of customer service you can expect from the River Birch Nursery Landscaping. All right, well, we're hanging up. That was a comedy bit that went nowhere. And again, that's why the show needs structure. I want to start off with a laugh, and then we get more serious as things progress, people. And that's the right way to say it is I even wonder if I hit record. I did hit record. Good. Because God knows we wouldn't want to have lost that. River Birch Nursery Landscaping. So 2 sentimental stories at the end of the podcast. We'll start with a quick thing here. This is an evergreen entertainment topic here. The section is called Am I the A-Hole on Reddit? It is a rabbit hole of people's personal problems, worries, and whatnot. It is like Jerry Springer in the written word, written by the common man. People write a headline and then they ask a question. Am I the a-hole for? They ask the question. But then there's usually like this long paragraph of like all the minutia of the story. And I generally do not like, like it's a rabbit hole. And then sometimes I don't always leave feeling good, but I do love the catchy headlines that people write on Am I the A-hole? And I thought we could decide if they are the a-hole quickly based on the headline. Okay, here we go. Am I the jerk for kicking out my fiance for letting my snake loose outside? To which I say, you are not the a-hole. Why? Because if the snake's sleeping outside, she could sleep outside with the snake, unless she's going to sleep with your snake inside. What? I don't know. There's a snake joke there and I missed it. Am I the jerk for refusing to speak to my husband until he changes the name he put on our son's birth certificate? That's probably one of those types of questions where I should have read the second paragraph. It depends on what the name is. So yes, you're the jerk. Or why can't you go down and change it yourself? Why does the husband have to do all the paperwork? I mean, it's not like you just popped a 10-pound life form out of your vajayjay. Really, go do your own paperwork. All right, you are the jerk. Am I the jerk for refusing to remove a beaver dam on my property that is causing flooding and property damage to my neighbors? Hate to say it, but I guess I just pressed the wrong buzzer. So you're not the jerk. I was going to say you are the jerk. But if you read the paragraph on this guy, this is a man who loves beaver. By the way, I'm only just now realizing the double entendre of a beaver story and a snake story. Maybe if the beaver guy could meet the snake guy, that's what I'm thinking. I'm not going to use the sound effects anymore. I'm sorry, people. I'll stop. All right, here we go. But yeah, if you're hurting other people's property, man, maybe you got to let the little beavers go further downstream. I don't know. That's my feeling on that. Am I the jerk for being angry that it took almost 2 years for my mother-in-law to meet our daughter? And I say you are not the jerk. Why? Because, 2 years, man, it's her grandkid. Now, I mean, even if there's like 100 grandkids, you know what? That kid wants to feel loved. That kid doesn't want to feel like baby 13. Get off your ass, grandma. Go visit. This is how mother-in-laws wind up in cheap homes. Okay. Seriously. Am I the jerk for still eating meat, even though I secretly agree with the vegans? To which I say, no, because I'm one of those people. Listen, if you lay out any vegan argument, like I have 2 friends who got mad at me because I got mad at them because they were posting anti-pork messages on Instagram right before the holidays. And I actually posted it aiming at one person, and then a coworker friend of mine wrote me a note saying, Tom, if you're going to make fun of my Instagram, just unfollow me. And I'm like, I wasn't even talking about your Instagram. I was talking about another friend who was being much meaner. And they were and I did unfollow the first friend because they were just posting very, very violent videos of animals being slaughtered. And yeah, you know what? Honestly, man, if you think about, like, there's no real argument to eat mass-produced meat. And it's not just, I'm not going to be that guy who says, but if God didn't want us to eat meat, why did he make it so delicious? It's also so inconvenient to eat healthy. That's why I gained the weight back. Is I'm on the move, people. I'm on the move. I'm out there. I'm doing it. Okay. I don't have time to make a salad. I don't have time to make sure the lettuce is locally sourced. Okay. And I want someone else to do this work for me. So you are not the jerk. And I am going to hell with you, whoever you are on Reddit. And then, am I the jerk for uninviting my grandma to the wedding? You would be a jerk. And I guess so, no, but you would be a jerk if you expected grandma to give you a gift. I'm sure grandma did something awful. And honestly, I mean, speaking for my own grandmother who went to my brother's wedding and she almost backed out. She was insecure. She didn't want to be there. She wanted to show love for my brother and my mother, but she had no interest after the church. There was no interest at all. It was just, I will sit at this table and be polite until I can get to go home. So I'll bet your grandma didn't even want to be there. So you are not the jerk. Now, on to death and depression, ladies and gentlemen. And no need to send me sorry for your loss stuff. In fact, that's part of why I'm not putting this on Facebook. Is 2 figures in my life have passed away. Maury Fogel, a comedian, and a man named Bryant Renfroe, who was Barbara Walters' hair guy. hairstylist at The View. I'll start with Maury. And it's funny. And during my Fall Start podcast, I went really long. Maury was a career open micer. He was a comedian. And I would say, and if you want to read the darker side of Maury, the New York Times did a hatchet job on him in 2004. They followed an open micer through the very tough open mic scene of New York City when it was a little bit more happy and fun. You paid $5, you got on stage, and nobody got laughs. And they followed Maury, who played the poor schlub comedian. In a lot of ways, I see a lot of myself in his act, and a lot of the mistakes I think he made, I see myself making, and therefore I need to fix them. Maury did a lot of poor me humor. You know, that, and in fact, thinking of Maury is why I led with that 5 minutes of brilliant comedy here on the podcast. Maury did a lot of poor me, and he had you know, like he had this thing. He had a shtick or a gimmick, but I'm Maury, you know, like, and he kind of had a little bit of a speech impediment combined with a Queen's accent. Actually, I think I have, let me see if I have it. I think I have 2 jokes of his that I really like.
How about the one? Wrigley's Doublemint Gum. Double your pleasure, double your fun. So I figure I'll chew the gum. I'll be dating the Doublemint twins, right? No, had a date with the dentist. They took out a double pack of wisdom tooth. Now, folks, it was no pleasure and it was no fun. How about the other commercial? Red Bull, it gives you wings. No, it gave me diarrhea.
Okay, I like the diarrhea joke. I don't know why, but I do love a good poop joke. So listen, that's Maury, but the biggest accomplishment of Maury's career, which was in this hatchet job of an article, and the article was so tough on Maury and the scene that my father read the article and was genuinely concerned about whether or not I was pursuing a positive career path in the early 2000s. And yeah, and the article, while I think mean to Maury, did capture the darkness of the scene, but there was a happy ending in Maury's career. Maury also ran a bi-monthly comedy show at Sloan Kettering Memorial Hospital. Now, I'm going to, I'll tell you the negative story, and then I'll end with the positive on it. The negative story was, it was a rough room. People had cancer. There were people on the brink of death in the damn crowd. Sometimes there'd be a lot of people with their family, and it would feel like a real comedy show. And other times it felt like, and this was a line in that New York Times article, where it felt like an AA meeting, except an AA meeting would have more laughs. And this is one story that we used to glorify as it was glorified as a hell gig. It was glorified as a hell gig. And sometimes it was. I would go there, I would donate blood, and then I would go perform. And I would do this a couple of times a year. And I would donate blood, and now I can't donate blood because I'm taking Propecia. So a loss for the blood banks, but a hit for the ladies. Now, my friend Maury's show, the Sloan Kettering rec room was gorgeous, 14th floor or 15th floor, overlooking the East River. And the stage was right by the elevators, and it had, like, I guess you would go up to the 14th floor and walk down to the 13th, whatever it was. It had like a handicap accessible ramp right behind wherever anybody performed. And this is one of those stories that I've told so many times, I can't remember if it's true. This is the embellished version of a story. This can't be 100% true, this story, but somebody's telling a show. There's a guy in the crowd. There's only like 2 people in the crowd one day. The guy is in his hospital gown, in physical pain, and the comedians are all tanking. And this guy stands up and he says, "I don't know what's worse, this show or my disease." And then he walks out. But he doesn't just walk out. It's like a slow and painful walk out, because the man is now limping his way out while holding his IV pole, and he's going up the ramp to the landing, boop, then make a left turn, up the ramp to the landing while everybody else is watching. There were happier moments, though, and I'm going to end on this. Like, there's a legend of Mike Sweeney, Conan O'Brien's head writer, would do this room, and he was the one guy who is king of crowd work, and he could do positive crowd work in a room full of people with cancer and make fun of the cancer, in that he would find whoever had the biggest IV and call them the wise man of the group, the chief of the tribe, or something like that. And I had some good shows there, and it was Maury's service to America. And he was heartbroken when they decided to stop doing the shows at the hospital. But I would say this. I don't know if you ever did that show, and I don't know if you always came away a better comedian, but you did leave that hospital show as a better and more grateful human being. So Maury, again, I haven't called you in 10 years. I hope you are performing I was going to say the Sloan Kettering Hospital Show of the Sky, but no, I hope you're at peace, man. And the man had a big heart. And the other lesson I learned from him is, maybe to be a little more positive with my act. The second one, and again, using my dad's line of don't grieve for someone if you weren't their friend when they were alive or before they passed. Bryant Renfroe. He was Barbara Walters' legendary hairstylist, won Emmys, many Emmys, been on the show many times. Remember, I went into The View in 2006 with Rosie O'Donnell, and it's funny how small these stories seem 15, 16 years later, but Rosie had a rough time. It was, Rosie went in with, let's say 3 people, and I was the only one who stayed. And the first thing I loved about Bryant was Bryant went out of his way, not just to say, hey, I'm happy you're here, but was effusive about making me feel welcome. Another funny story on Bryant was he cut my hair for my brother's wedding. And remember, I looked good. I looked better than the bride. Actually, that became my joke. Bryant cut my hair for my brother's wedding, and I looked better than the bride. And he'd laugh all 550 times I told that in front of him. And the other the funny and kind one with him was one day I complimented a sweater vest he had on. And remember, I'm young, poor. I'm a comedian. I don't, I miss being young, because you got to remember, at that point in my career, I didn't know how long my career would last. I didn't know how much money I'd have in the bank. I was still, much like our friend Maury Fogel, I was still living in mom and dad's house, commuting, because remember, I didn't think the View job would last. And I complimented a nice sweater he wore. And a few days later, I am called, I believe he was in Barbara's dressing room. And he says, Tom, I want to give you something. And it's that sweater. And I looked at the label, and I want to say it was Gucci. And my eyes welled up with tears, because I'm like, Brian, if I take this will be the nicest piece of clothing I own. And, he said, you deserve it. And then he probably had another well, it's either you or Salvation Army. Come on, Tom. And I wore that sweater for 5 years straight. I wore it underneath and it was perfect, a perfect piece of clothing for me. Because remember, I'm a sweaty man. I would wear it under the blazer, and yeah. And then the more silly story that nobody else knows except for him is I want to say whenever gay marriage became legal in the Supreme Court, and I know it sounds so old fashioned to say this, but when the Supreme Court allowed men to marry men nationally, he was an early adopter. He had a longtime partner, Joseph. And the short version of the story is, I think I was more excited about him getting married than he and Joseph were. And they basically said at the show that they were going to go down to City Hall. Bryant, his husband, executive producer Bill Getty, I believe Linda Finson, the EIP of the show, the executive in charge of production, went. and Bill were going to go down to City Hall to get married. Now, realize I'm young. I'm 30. I'm new to the city. I've only been to one City Hall wedding, and that was my cousin Amy's wedding out on Long Island somewhere. It was like in a county City Hall. And for that City Hall, hundreds of people could show up. It was like a giant courtroom. And that's what I thought Bryant was getting married in. Thank God I got there late. Thank God I heard a voice in my head that said, stop. I didn't realize how intimate the New York City marriage process was. That it's really, they have a justice of the peace and they let only 2 people in the room or 5 people in the room at the time. Had I crashed that, I would have looked like a freak. The other, and again, it's funny how people stick in your head for the weirdest pieces of advice. Bryant helped me pick this apartment. He did, without or indirectly with one major piece of advice, which was I had seen a great apartment that is twice the size of this place. It was significantly cheaper. The thing is, though, it was on the ground floor and basement level of a brownstone. And he gave me a piece of advice that I think of every time I look at ground floor apartments, which is, Tom, all of New York City's problems flow downward. The rats go to the basement. The floods go downward. And that piece of advice kept me from getting that apartment. And I think of him when I see beautiful downstairs apartments when I'm walking around the Upper West Side of New York City. That I listen, for all the Emmys on his shelf, do you think that man thinks well? And there was that one time I gave Tom Kelly real estate advice. Maybe we're not all meant to make great differences, but we're meant to make little ones. And in a little way, he made a great difference in my life. There you go. So Bryant, God bless you, man. All right. End of the program. We got to do some quick shout outs here. Who are we shouting out in the Magic Mirror today? Oh, geez. Wait, how can I not shout out one last time? The River Birch Nursery Landscaping Company. Who are they? I don't know. Is it spam? I don't own a house and I'm in New York. Why are they following me? I don't know. River Birch Nursery Landscaping, but thank you for being a part of this. Oh, and last, Magic Mirror shout out. Brett Walker, who sent me a text message that, or he commented on our YouTube that said something along the lines of, you're not worth listening to, but it was all autocorrect and he apologized. He was trying to say, instead of saying, I won't get sucked into your worth, it was, I won't get sucked into your wordle or whatever it is, but he apologized very quickly. And then he deleted the thread thinking I wouldn't see any of it. Ha, 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 Brett Walker. I saw it and I still love you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, until the next time, Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays guaranteed. I may drop this show on Saturday night to see if it gets any extra downloads. So just be easy on me for Tuesday. Okay. And until next time, good night, River Birch Nursery and Landscaping of Locust Hill, Virginia.